The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has rejected a petition to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti due to incomplete requirements. But the petition, which was accompanied by 6 bags of documents containing signatures from voters in Kogi Central Senatorial District, lacked essential contact information. According to INEC's National Commissioner, Sam Olumekun, the petitioners failed to provide their contact address, telephone numbers, and email addresses as required by Clause 1F of the Regulations and Commissions, or Regulations and Guidelines. The address provided was Okene, Kogi State, and this was deemed insufficient for contacting the petitioners.
The petition to recall Senator Akpoti came after her suspension by the Senate for violating its rules amidst allegations of sexual harassment against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Here's why Senator Akpoti has been recalled by her constituents.
Now we're joined this morning to discuss this development by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Jide Ologun. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us, sir.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
A lot of responsibility has now been placed on INEC. It just feels like over the past few weeks we've seen Nigerians hold several institutions to high standards, and some of these institutions have been deemed to have failed. Would you say that INEC has acted in the best possible interests of upholding fairness and justice in this case?
Absolutely. And this is the concept of due process and due diligence, because INEC must ensure transparency in the process, because recalling a senator is provided for in Section 69 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended in few words, but then INEC has regulations that must be complied with. And it's a great thing that INEC has said, though we have received your petition, you need to further meet some conditions that will make the process credible. And you recall that recently when the idea of having additional 30 states in Nigeria came to the National Assembly, it was also said that those things were not presented proper way and they were withdrawn. So we are waiting to see what the next step will be, whether to provide the vital information needed by INEC. Where I can let us know that there are 3 major steps when it comes to recalling a senator that may not make it easy. You talk about the presentation of the petition, which has been done now. Then you talk about the verification, because over 1/2 of the registered voters in the constituency you must endorse the petitions, and then you need to verify all this. Then you now call for a referendum, and all this must be done within 90 days. And that is why there's no senator that has been recalled on record in Nigeria. So sometimes these things just spring up as part of the political weapons to either intimidate a senator or a target personality.
Now, talking about the political weapons, let's look at the political interference. Given the political climate surrounding this recall attempt, I mean, the person that put forward this recall attempt that is currently a government appointee in the Kogi State government, how can INEC ensure that the process remains free and fair from political influence, or is not a possibility? Because we've seen videos of allegedly of people, just making signing several documents claiming to be this constituent. And look at the record time they took to get over 250,000 signatures.
There are several stories around that. Some claimed that those people were invited for empowerment program. There are different stories. And that is why INEC has a vital role to play as an umpire here. INEC has records of registered voters and their signatures, and that is the essence of verification, you see. And it is not the duty of the petitioners to verify. It is the duty of INEC. And the buck lies on the table of INEC to say, okay, we have checked, and these are not the signatures of the registered voters that are expected to present this petition. And that's why I mentioned the 3 stages. we should only be bothered if INEC does not carry out a thorough verification. And without the verification, the process cannot even advance to the referendum stage, where the senator now can be recalled by INEC with the issuance of a recall certificate as against the certificate of office handed over to her initially. So, by and large, all eyes are on INEC now, and INEC has started well by saying you must comply with some basic requirements.
So does it mean that the application that is deemed incomplete now can still be corrected, and that means that Natasha, is not yet out of the woods yet?
Absolutely. In fact, under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when you talk about criminal allegations, the defendant is assumed innocent until these allegations are proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And we are not talking about politics. So they have come to say we have lost confidence in the senator representing us. They cannot remove her. It's the duty of INEC that brought her to office initially as an umpire to say, okay, let's see your petitions and let's ensure that those who should endorse, and I've said it, over 1/2 of the registered voters in the constituencies must endorse, and be sure that the endorsements are genuine. And if that process passes through, then you move to the third stage of say, okay, let's come together, set a venue, and let's vote over this.
Does it really matter that, because this is one of the areas or sore points that people have pointed out, does it matter that the number of people who have allegedly voted for her recall, they far outweigh the number of people who voted at the 2023 general elections? For example, they would say that she came to office with 54,074 votes, and now we're seeing over 200,000 people voting for her recall. Does that matter?
It matters. It matters at the macro level, and it's a systemic issue. So apparently, if there is a foul play, those behind the foul play must be brought to justice. Absolutely. That is fraud. That is misrepresentation. But is that what we experience in Nigeria? Because it seems it's more about political power. And that is how to sanitize the society. Because you cannot just bring frivolous petitions to engage the time of parastatals and agencies.
But they excuse it as politics, that these things happen in politics. It's a game.
It's a game, but should this kind of game be the hallmark of the Nigerian democracy? My answer is no.
Can't they maybe say that, yes, these voters are registered voters that chose not to exercise their right to vote at the last elections, but have now decided to exercise that right to recall?
It is still subject to the verification. And I'm challenging the system to verify those signatures. I mean, even if you have 75 million naira in the bank, and you go there to transfer, they do your thumbprint to be sure that you are the account holder. And until we come to the point of credibility in this country, we go nowhere. So if some people have gathered because they were paid by some politicians to now sign on behalf of others, they should be made to face the music of justice. That's my position. And that is when INEC will become more credible on platforms of promoting transparency. And what Section 15, subsection 5 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says is that the state shall abolish corrupt practice and abuse of office. So a corrupt practice is not restricted to embezzling money in office and collecting bribe and money laundering and all those. Again, all these false representations, though I'm just speaking on the assumption that some of those signatures would have been signed by parties who just came out to be mischievous. And that is why we must verify.
Now let's assume if this recall process does advance, does Senator Natasha Akpoti have any legal recourse to challenge the recall, or the judiciary can be invoked at this point?
Absolutely. Judiciary is always ready. We have three arms of government, and the judiciary is to interpret the law. Even in the case of impeachment, when a governor is impeached, the governor cannot go to court in respect of that impeachment, but can go to court in respect of the procedures. And you saw what happened in Edo State. The deputy governor was thrown out by the governor, and he went to court and won. So the judiciary is always waiting. But you see, my concern is that must we waste the precious governance time on issues like this rather than focusing on bringing a good lease of life to citizens?
So whose responsibility is it if we find out that some of the signatures were gathered in a dubious way, which is, like you said, criminal misrepresentation, to make an example out of these people, that you don't waste the time of government institutions and all of that to act as a precedent to others who might want to use this back door of recalling some representatives they do not like in the name of playing politics, in the name of claiming that the game is the game.
INEC will petition the Nigerian police or any of the relevant law enforcement agencies to further investigate and invite the conveners of this fictitious endorsement to come and explain. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, you have three important pillars: thorough investigation, diligent prosecution before a committed judiciary. You see, but like I said, it's likely to be that the relevant agencies will just overlook this, and we should know.
Will and resources to
exactly. And maybe in another 2 weeks we are discussing a different topic entirely from Natasha.
Well, I don't even know if that's possible, because we've seen the trajectory of how this move started. It first started with, under 40
not being allowed to sit.
Yes, and then after that, it then snowballed into sexual allegations.
Recalling the sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment allegations, exactly. Now that we have the sexual harassment case, which he has said is the bedrock for all of this, I want you to quickly touch on that. Your thoughts on the case she's had against the Senate President for sexual harassment, abuse of office, and obstruction of legislative duties. She's been suspended for 6 months. And these are some of the allegations she's leveled against the Senate President.
The Honorable Justice handling the matter has recused himself because, according to him, Akpabio alleged that he's biased. So the matter will be referred back to the Chief Judge to be reassigned to another judge. But as we speak now, the suspension rolled out by the Senate stands until it is dislodged by the judiciary or resolved politically by coming together. And those are some of the opportunities she had, because by extension now, more stakeholders are offended by the fact that she has gone to the international community to portray Nigeria in a particular picture. And that is why we say sometimes that in managing conflict, you need to engage a lot of wisdom and what we call emotional intelligence in human resource management.
By engaging in wisdom and emotional intelligence, are you talking on the part of how Senator Natasha has handled it, or how Senator Godswill Akpabio has handled it?
Natasha, absolutely.
Why do you say that?
I've mentioned it. She rushed to the United Nations, and you see, because some of these issues, though they may have personal elements, they also have national implication, because all these things being rolled out will affect attracting foreign direct investment, the image of Nigeria, the reputation.
But what about her rights? What about
that if the Senate has acted right, if the Senate President has recused himself from being judge and jury in the same matter, it won't have gotten to this level? There will be no need, if she had a fair hearing, to go abroad.
Those are perceptions. As a chief superintendent of police and a private investigator, we have our own approaches. There are allegations. Now, don't let us overlook the fact that the Senate is saying she's not suspended on the basis of the allegation of sexual harassment, but for flouting the rules of the House. You see, so these are issues. And on the issue of sexual harassment, she's in court. And, you know, so, and I don't want to comment too much on that. I'm just talking generally now, because the House of Senate will come out to tell you, which is a reality, that her seat was not the first seat, that was substituted or changed, the location was changed. You see, so there are several issues in this matter. And again, on the case of sexual harassment, I am against sexual harassment. I lecture on this in human resource management and things like that. But then you also need to prove the sexual harassment. So I don't like the scale of allegations driving the process. For instance, now, and we have experienced this many times in Nigeria, that is the media trial that will drive the process. I am saying that there are mechanisms that, because the National Assembly also is claiming that she has not even come through the right channel for them to listen to her and think. So when you have these counter claims, then you best leave it to the judiciary. And
well, the conversations are unending as to what exactly amounts to sexual harassment. And I think even within the legal space is one of the most difficult areas to prove. So many have said that, you know, her allegations have been swept under the carpet or watered down. She's made such strong allegations, some of the statements that have been made by the Senate President, you know, that have been sort of sexual in nature, according to what she has said. So,
you see, on sexual harassment,
yes,
even telling a lady you are hot constitutes sexual harassment.
But, yes,
but you must prove it. That is the issue with the judiciary. If you look at Section 131 of the Evidence Act 2011, it states this clearly. You present some facts before the court, the burden of proof is on you. You see, we've had successful cases in sexual harassment, and we have had sexual harassment allegations that were false. I mean, so those are issues.
Ologun, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show.
Thank you too.
This is an unending conversation. Yesterday we had the Senate Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions Committee having a meeting, and they began a probe into the sexual harassment allegations leveled against the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, by suspended lawmaker Natasha Akpoti. The outcome of that was very, very unpleasant. Let's take a look.
How can you be?